Listen closely. What you're about to hear is the true story of 4 simple words. I love you. That's the only warning 16-year-old Mikey Roynon gave his mother before he vanished into a suburban Saturday night. But moments after he left, her world exploded. Her phone was hit by a devastating blitz of 37 missed calls. A desperate, frantic alarm she was too late to answer. Mikey wasn't mugged. He wasn't in an accident. He was executed on a quiet driveway with a black-bladed horror show, a zombie knife, a weapon so vicious it's outlawed in the UK. We know the exact moment the nightmare began. 3 strangers, teenagers, traveling 30 miles armed to the teeth, caught on camera boarding a bus to a party they crashed with one intention. But here's the part that will chill you to the bone and keep you glued to your screen. When the police finally cornered them, the killers didn't confess. They didn't show remorse. They offered a defense so outrageous it insulted the entire court. They claimed they murdered Mikey in self-defense, the armed predator claiming to be the victim. This is the definitive story of that shocking lie, the chilling evidence that tore it apart, and the devastating truth about the UK's knife crime epidemic. Stay with us. Do you truly believe a killer who brings a weapon of war to a birthday party and then cries self-defense? Drop your theories below. The silence is over. Before the shocking headlines and the agonizing court testimony, there was just Mikey. Mikey Roynon wasn't defined by the final, terrifying moments of his life. He was defined by potential, a vibrant 16-year-old from Kingswood, Bristol, whose life was only just beginning to take shape. To know Mikey was to know his music. He wasn't casually interested in rap. He was a promising young rapper whose focus was singular and intense. Music was his passion, his future, and the engine driving his ambition, providing a clear trajectory that most teenagers only dream of. He carried a small, slightly worn notebook everywhere, an extension of his own mind, the pages filled with his meticulously crafted lyrics, rhymes, and rhythmic ideas. He'd scribble down an idea on the bus, meticulously edit a line while waiting for food, and then rush home to lay the tracks down over edited beats. That notebook was his blueprint for success, a powerful testament to the dreams he chased every single day, a future that was, in his mind and his mother's, completely secure and imminent. His life was built on a secure, predictable circle of love and support. His mother Haley was his biggest champion, her pride in his talent boundless. His friends described him as the lifeblood of any gathering, the one whose sheer presence elevated the mood. The night of June 10, 2023 should have been a high watermark, a casual celebration. He was heading to a 16th birthday party in Bath. He walked out the door wearing brand new trainers, a special gift marking the start of his crucial GCSE exams, symbolizing a transition, a rite of passage, and a clear path toward adulthood. As he smiled, excited, saying those last 4 words to his mother, his future felt entirely secure and imminent, untouched by the looming terror. But as Mikey made his journey toward the party on a quiet suburban street, an entirely separate, sinister rhythm was being established 30 miles away in Wiltshire. This is where the innocence shatters and the story takes its dark turn. Here lived the 3 teenagers who would become his killers: Shane Cunningham, Leo Knight, and Cartel Bushnell, all also 16. On paper, their lives were meant to be similar to Mikey's: school, friends, sports. But a chilling, defining difference set them apart: a deep-seated, terrifying fixation on violence and weaponry. They were preparing for a party they hadn't been invited to. This was no casual road trip or impromptu decision. Their preparation was methodical, deliberate, and entirely sinister. They gathered an arsenal of 4 knives, ensuring they were heavily armed. The most terrifying of these was the zombie knife. For a viewer unaware, it's vital to understand this isn't a simple tool or even a pocket blade. It is a specialized, black-bladed, oversized machete, an instrument of fear and destruction. It is a specialized weapon banned in the UK precisely because it exists solely to inflict maximum, grotesque, and irreversible harm. The calculated act of acquiring and transporting this weapon underscores a terrifying level of premeditation. They weren't anticipating trouble. They were anticipating and preparing for a conflict they could dominate through brute, terrifying force. The proof of their deadly intent was captured in stark, chilling detail. CCTV footage became the initial damning piece of evidence, capturing the trio boarding a bus from Wiltshire to Bath. The image is hauntingly normal, yet profoundly disturbing. Three boys in ordinary teenage clothes, but with the unmistakable outline of large, sharp objects visibly bulging beneath their clothing. They weren't just carrying knives, they were smuggling weapons of war into a teenage social gathering. They were traveling, armed and ready, toward a collision with a young man whose biggest concern was his rap notebook and his new footwear. The distance they traveled, 30 miles, was not a coincidence. It was an act of deliberate, cross-county armed infiltration. The peaceful, musical world of Mikey Roynon was hurtling straight toward the devastating reality of the knife culture Shane Cunningham, Leo Knight, and Cartel Bushnell actively embraced. The scene was set, and the unseen danger, fully loaded, was stepping off the bus.
The house on Eastfield Avenue soon filled with around 70 young people. To Mikey and his friends, the atmosphere was exactly what a 16th birthday party should be: loud music, laughter, and a sense of carefree summer possibility. But the sheer volume of attendees provided the perfect auditory screen for the lethal tension that was about to arrive. When the three armed boys, Cunningham, Knight, and Bushnell, stepped inside, the dynamic of the party shifted. They didn't blend in. Witnesses would later testify that they carried an almost immediate, uneasy presence, a palpable threat that moved through the crowd like a current. The danger was unseen, carefully hidden beneath their jackets, but it was felt. The interaction began as an encounter between strangers. The three crashers deliberately approached Mikey and his group. The initial conversation was deceptively benign, perhaps a brief query about the party or a simple introduction. But this normalcy was a thin, fragile veneer. The exchange quickly deteriorated, fueled by what court documents later termed a difference of opinions. It was a typical, fleeting teenage disagreement, the kind that should dissolve into the noise of the music and be forgotten by morning. Except this time, the exchange was between an unarmed young man with a musical notebook and three predators carrying an arsenal. The atmosphere saturated instantly. The provocative words escalated into challenging attitudes and aggressive gestures. Amidst the music, the laughter died out in the immediate vicinity. Eyes narrowed, positions were taken, and the simple verbal disagreement metastasized into a confrontation that was terrifyingly out of place. It moved with the speed of a breaking wave. No one had time to intervene. No one had time to fully understand the gravity of the silent promise hidden beneath the attacker's clothing. Then, the unseen threat became violently real. Without warning, without a fair chance, Shane Cunningham moved. The sudden, terrifying action was a blur, captured only in fragmented terror by witnesses. The black, jagged blade of the zombie knife, the illegal weapon they had traveled 30 miles to carry, was produced. This was not a warning flash. This was the immediate, terrifying reality of the crime. Cunningham attacked, and the sight of the massive knife, combined with the sudden, brutal movement, caused immediate panic. The other two attackers, Knight and Bushnell, pressed in, creating a terrifying wall, eliminating any chance Mikey had to retreat, escape, or defend himself. The blow itself was devastating, precise, and singular. It was a catastrophic injury. But we must pause here. We cannot tell you exactly what happened in the next 30 seconds, the sheer chaos of the scream that followed, the frantic reaction of the teenagers who scattered and reached for their phones to dial emergency services, or the immediate fate of the young rapper. That revelation must wait. What we can reveal is the terrifying aftermath for the killers. While screaming teenagers called for help, Shane Cunningham, Knight, and Bushnell didn't check their victim. They didn't pause. They immediately turned their attention to one singular, cold objective: erasing the evidence. They fled the scene within seconds, already focusing on shedding their clothes and dumping their weapons, the zombie knife among them. The party had become a blood-soaked crime scene, and the armed intruders were already in full flight, attempting to disappear into the quiet suburban streets as if the entire event had never happened. The initial shock had passed, replaced by the cold, desperate calculus of survival, leaving the ultimate fate of Mikey Roynon hanging in the balance, forcing the viewer to ask, did he survive the immediate attack, or was the wound instantly fatal? The chaos of the party was immediately replaced by the cold, methodical efficiency of the Avon and Somerset police. Within minutes, the quiet street outside the birthday party was saturated with flashing blue and red light. Detectives immediately sealed the scene. Every piece of evidence became precious. The blood stains on the driveway, the shattered fragments of the teenager's night, and most critically, the frantic testimony of the 70 witnesses who had fled the garden. The initial manhunt was less a search than a calculated sweep, relying heavily on modern surveillance. Investigators didn't have to wait long. The three attackers, Cunningham, Knight, and Bushnell, had left a devastating digital breadcrumbs. Police quickly secured CCTV footage from the public bus system and local businesses. These images confirmed the precise nature of the journey. The three teenagers had traveled deliberately from Wiltshire to Bath, their mission already etched in the video frames. Furthermore, the footage clearly showed the moment the three boarded the bus, the horrifying sight of the knives, including the distinctive shape of the zombie knife bulging beneath their clothing. This visual proof immediately shattered any notion of a random, spontaneous street fight. This was premeditation caught on film. The critical breakthrough came quickly with the recovery of the murder weapon. Following their panicked flight, the attackers had attempted to discard the evidence, but the police dragnet was too efficient. The zombie knife and other associated weapons were recovered and immediately rushed to the forensic lab. The result was indisputable. DNA analysis confirmed that the blood coating the illegal blade belonged to Mikey Roynon. Digital forensics further solidified the timeline, tracking the attackers' mobile phones from the moment they left Wiltshire to the minutes they fled the crime scene and finally to the addresses where they were located and arrested. The case seemed closed, a straightforward matter of armed individuals committing murder. But this is where the story pivots from a horrific crime to a profound psychological shock. As the mountains of evidence, the unanimous witness testimony, the irrefutable DNA, the damning video footage were presented, the killers did not buckle. They did not confess. Instead, their defense lawyers unveiled a strategy so callous, so utterly audacious, it stunned the entire courtroom and every single person following the true crime case. Self-defense. They argued that Mikey Roynon was the aggressor. They claimed that the unarmed victim had somehow swung a knife toward them first, forcing the three boys, the same boys who had traveled 30 miles with an arsenal including the zombie knife, to defend their lives. This was the final, most cruel act of the murder. Think about the audacity. They were the armed invaders, the ones who had shattered a life, yet they sought to cast themselves as the victims, hoping the sheer confusion and chaos of the party would allow their lie to root. This incredible claim forced the jury to wrestle with the question that defines the entire tragedy. Could an overwhelming amount of digital evidence, forensic data, and witness statements be overcome by a single, desperate, self-serving lie? The entire resolution of the unsolved crime mystery now hinged on whether the jury would see the truth or fall for the final, devastating trick of the killers. The trial itself had been an agonizing, drawn-out extension of the initial trauma. For months, Haley Ryle and Mikey's family had been forced to relive every horrifying detail, from the chilling CCTV footage of the attacker's armed journey to the stark, clinical forensic reports detailing the fatal 9.5-centimeter wound. The defense's cynical strategy, the relentless insistence on the self-serving, self-defense lie, had only deepened their pain, adding insult and calculated cruelty to their injury. They watched as the three teenage killers, Shane Cunningham, Leo Knight, and Cartel Bushnell, sat in the dock, their faces often impassive, seemingly unmoved by the human catastrophe they had wrought. They knew the truth, but they had to wait for the law to ratify their reality.
The moment the jury returned after deliberation marked the climax of this entire horrific saga. The courtroom atmosphere was suffocating, thick with anticipation and dread. Every eye in Bristol Crown Court was fixed on the foreman. When the verdicts were finally read out, a wave of profound, complex emotion washed over the gallery. Shane Cunningham, the individual who plunged the zombie knife into Mikey's neck, was found guilty of murder in a unanimous decision. The lie that he acted in self-defense had been shattered by the irrefutable evidence. His two accomplices, Leo Knight and Cartel Bushnell, were found guilty of the lesser but still devastating charge of manslaughter. While the verdict provided a degree of necessary legal finality, the sentencing phase was where the true gravity of the decision was laid bare. Justice was not just about finding guilt, it was about assigning a measure of consequence to the unimaginable. Presiding over the court, Mr. Justice Saini delivered the sentences. Cunningham, for the charge of murder, was sentenced to be detained for life, with a minimum term of 16 years before he could even be considered for parole. Knight and Bushnell received lengthy sentences of 9.5 years and 9 years respectively, marking a significant period of detention for their roles in the manslaughter. In a move that highlighted the severity and public interest of the case, the judge made a rare and crucial decision. He lifted the attacker's anonymity. Cunningham, Knight, and Bushnell could no longer hide behind their juvenile status. Their names and faces were now released to the public, a measure of accountability intended to reinforce the gravity of their crime and the consequences of the knife culture they embraced. But no sentence, however long, could ever truly address the agony of the victim's family. For Mikey's mother, Haley Ryle, the word justice offered no warmth. It was a cold, hard acknowledgement of a permanent loss. She described the immediate, frantic chaos of that night, receiving those 37 missed calls while miles away, praying it was all a mistake during the excruciating 3-hour taxi ride back to Bristol. When she arrived at the crime scene, saw the forensic tents, and was told her son didn't make it to the hospital, her life was irrevocably shattered. The most visceral emotional delivery came from the victim impact statements. Haley spoke directly about the void left by her son, the relentless physical pain she felt just thinking about attending court. She wrote that she finds it hard to look at pictures of Mikey now, knowing she will never see his face again. Her words were a chilling expression of endless grief. The day my Mikey was killed, my life changed forever. She recalled what should have been Mikey's 17th birthday in November, an agonizing milestone passed in sorrow. Her nightmares were constant. I keep having awful dreams that Mikey is lost, and I'm looking for him. But even the awful dreams are better than waking up to reality, where he is gone. The emotional scars were not just psychological, they were existential. Mikey's grandmother, Teresa Owen, also added her voice, conveying a depth of despair that permeated the courtroom. She would swap places with Mikey in a heartbeat, describing how she is now haunted by nightmares of Mikey's murder. The profound injustice was encapsulated in her reflection on the future. The killers would eventually have a chance to start their lives again, but for Mikey, there would be no fresh start.
The sobs of the family mixed with the heavy silence of the entire courtroom served as a potent, heartbreaking reminder that while the legal system could close a case, it could never heal a wound inflicted by a zombie knife and a predatory lie. The verdict was delivered, but the pain, the emptiness, and the chilling memory of those last 4 words, "I love you," would endure forever.
With the verdicts delivered and the sentences pronounced, the trial of Mikey Roynon's killers reached its conclusion. Yet, the proceedings could not end there. Presiding over the court, Mr. Justice Saney recognized that this case transcended the courtroom, standing as a stark, horrifying testament to a deadly social crisis. His address during sentencing was not merely a legal formality. It was a profound, scathing societal indictment, a call to action delivered from the bench. He began by acknowledging the devastating loss, describing Mikey as a child whose family had suffered an unimaginable fate. But then he pivoted sharply toward the systemic failure that allowed 3 teenagers to bring a zombie knife to a birthday party. Mr. Justice Saney declared that the region, Bristol and its surrounding areas, was in the middle of a plague of knife crime. This terminology was deliberate, stark, and terrifying. A plague is not a simple problem. It is an epidemic, a contagion that requires radical, collective effort to eradicate. He emphasized that the violence witnessed in that garden that night was not an isolated anomaly, but a symptom of a deeply entrenched toxic culture, where teenagers arm themselves out of fear, paranoia, or misplaced bravado. He stressed a chilling irony that the killers, who carried their weapons believing they offered protection, were themselves products of the very environment they fostered. He delivered the stark warning: those who carry knives are themselves the most likely to be killed with a knife. This truth, echoing tragically in Mikey's death, highlighted the utter futility and devastating risk inherent in the choice to carry a blade. The judge's powerful words resonated because the issue was, and remains, time-sensitive and pervasive. Mikey's murder became inextricably linked to the national conversation surrounding youth violence. It illuminated how quickly a simple difference of opinions can escalate into a fatal tragedy when an illegal, military-style weapon is introduced. By giving such a forceful public warning, the judge ensured that the case was treated not just as a single murder, but as a critical, urgent lesson demanding community response and governmental intervention. The one person who understood the profound systemic nature of the crisis more than anyone else was Haley Roynon, Mikey's mother. The sheer magnitude of her grief could have been paralyzing, but instead she channeled her pain into a fierce, unwavering determination to prevent future losses. She realized that the justice system, while delivering verdicts, could not fix the culture that armed the killers. From her deep ongoing sorrow, she launched Mikey's World. This organization is not merely a memorial. It is an active, grassroots effort dedicated to tackling the very plague the judge had condemned. Haley's work is multifaceted and direct. She speaks tirelessly to young people, sharing her experience and showing the devastating, irreversible consequences of a single moment of anger or a casual decision to carry a knife. More tangibly, Mikey's World focuses on distributing vital bleed control kits to public spaces like pubs, sports clubs, and community halls. These kits, designed to staunch catastrophic bleeding caused by stabbings, acknowledge the horrifying reality that violence is rampant and immediate intervention is necessary to save lives. Her message is clear and heartbreakingly direct, a plea delivered from the epicenter of grief. Look what can happen. You don't just ruin one life, there are hundreds of us that have had our lives taken in different ways. Her organization, established amidst the anniversary of her son's death and the legal battles, serves as a permanent living symbol of defiance against the silence and complacency surrounding youth violence. It ensures that Mikey's name is not just remembered as a victim of a terrible unsolved crime mystery that was eventually solved, but as a catalyst for genuine change in the areas gripped by this lethal plague. The verdict closed the legal chapter, but Haley's work, inspired by the judge's stark warning, ensures the fight for a safer community continues. The court hearings are over, the verdicts have been delivered, and the sentences have been handed down. But the murder of Mikey Roynon didn't just end one life.
It simultaneously led to the destruction of 3 others, ending 4 young futures in one catastrophic night. A moment of uncontrolled rage, fueled by the possession of an illegal weapon like the zombie knife, resulted in years of detention and a lifetime of irreversible pain for a grieving family. This tragic case leaves us with a profound, terrifying legacy. A generation growing up where a difference of opinions at a party means a fight for survival. This is the chilling reality of the knife crime epidemic. We've exposed the killer's brazen lie of self-defense, traced their journey to kill, and heard the judge's stark warning about the plague consuming our communities. Now the story is in your hands. We need to hear from you. After witnessing the full, devastating trajectory of this crime, from the 30-mile armed journey to the zombie knife attack, what concrete steps must the community or the government take to finally end this relentless cycle of violence? And do you feel the punishment delivered in this case, life detention for the killer and lengthy terms for his accomplices, was truly enough to serve as a genuine deterrent? Your voice matters in this crucial conversation. If this true crime documentary gripped you and you believe Mikey's story needs to be heard, please hit that like button right now to help us share this tragedy and honor his memory. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next chilling case where we investigate British true crimes. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for helping to shed light on this darkness.